Who is the best team in the NFL? Is it the Seattle Seahawks? Is it the New England Patriots? Or is it somebody else? Today, I'll be giving you guys my top 10 NFL teams heading into the 2026 NFL season. If you're new and enjoy, hit the like and subscribe button. Let's have some fun. And we are going to begin at number 10 with the Los Angeles Chargers. I think this year I've decided to be the Chargers fan. I'm not a Chargers fan, but I think I'm going to be one this year. I think I'm going to support this Chargers team because I like where this team is heading at, and it just feels like nobody believes in them. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I look stupid by the end of this, but I really do have faith in this Chargers team. Do I have some questions about the roster? Yeah, I do. And honestly, with the reports that just came out today about Quentin Johnston and the injury to Tyler Biadasz, I have some concerns about that. But assuming those guys are healthy by, sometime this year, I think this team is going to be very good. When you look at this roster, this is one of the more talented teams in the entire NFL. Herbert, Hampton. I don't necessarily think they have like a star wide receiver, but as a group, I think McConkey, Johnston, Trey Harris is very intriguing. And then on the offensive line, you have Rashawn Slater and Joe Alt back, two Pro Bowl, All-Pro caliber tackles. You have Tyler Biadasz, who hopefully his injury is nothing severe. And then you have Jake Slaughter, who will probably play one of the two guard spots opposite of Cole Strange. And sure, you lost Jesse Minter, but I really do think this defense, with or without him, is going to be very good this year. Chris O'Leary will fill in at defensive coordinator. We'll see if that's an upgrade, a downgrade, and if it is a downgrade, how big of a downgrade is it going to be? For me, the 10 spot really was difficult because there was a lot of teams I could have thrown in here at number 10, but I really do think this Chargers team can find a lot of success. And look, they've had a lot of success the past couple years. It just hasn't quite translated to playoff success. And I'm not here to say that I think the Chargers are going to go on to have a super deep playoff run and Herbert wins more than one playoff game this year. I don't know. He hasn't won a playoff game quite yet. But when it comes to the regular season, I do believe the Chargers are going to be one of the top teams in the league. I don't know if they'll win their division because they have a tough one, but I think they're going to easily make it into the postseason if they can stay healthy. I mean, even like last year when they weren't healthy, they still made it in. You add in Mike McDonald with Harbaugh and that connection can work together. This is going to be a very good football team that honestly, it doesn't really matter what they do in the regular season. It all just comes down to how they perform in the postseason, because that is where we're going to judge Justin Herbert, Harbaugh, and everything that's going on in Los Angeles. The team is ridiculously talented, but it doesn't matter how good you are in the regular season. You got to do something in the playoffs. And I think this year hopefully could be the year. All right, let's move over now to number 9 and let's talk about the Detroit Lions. This is going to be one of the more interesting teams this year because obviously the high-end talent of this team is very apparent. When you have an offense with guys like Jahmyr Gibbs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Penei Sewell, and then of course Jared Goff, and then defensively you have big names like Hutchinson, you have Jack Campbell, DJ Reed, Branch, Joseph, even Roger McCreary is really good. We've all known that the roster for this team is ridiculously talented. They've had a lot of talent the past couple years, and with that, they have won a lot of games. Now, last year, we saw things not go their way. Yet again, injuries on defense and some new coordinators that just weren't quite up to the challenge last year. Now you have a second-year defensive coordinator, a new offensive coordinator, hopefully a roster that can get healthy this year and stay healthy for the entirety of it. If this team can stay healthy, I do think they're the best team in the NFC North. I think the Packers took a step back this year. I like the Vikings, but I don't love the Vikings. And then Chicago, I also think took a small, maybe not step back, it's not the right word, but I don't think they took a big enough step forward. I think the Lions, with the offseason they've had, adding in a Cade Mays, having a solid draft where you address the offensive line with Blake Miller, they still have questions at corner and overall health, but if they can find a way to stay healthy, which is a massive if, and if they hit on the offensive coordinator, this is going to be a team that wins a lot of games. Last year, to me, was a bit of a fluky season. They just didn't have a great second half of the season, specifically later in the year. They kind of just were losing random games. I expect this team to get right back on track this year, perform better, and if the coaching staff is good, hopefully they can make a deep playoff run. Listen, this is one of the most talented teams we have in the NFL, and as long as they can just stay healthy, the sky is truly the limit for this team. All right, next up, let's talk about the Buffalo Bills at number 8. The Bills were a tricky one to kind of put, if I'm being honest with you, because I think you can make the argument the Bills should be like a top 5 team, and to that, I don't necessarily disagree. In fact, I think if you look at the betting odds to win the championship this year, the Bills, I think, have like the second or third or fourth best odds to win it all. And I don't really necessarily disagree with that. I think this roster is very talented. When you have Josh Allen at quarterback, when you pair that up with James Cook and DJ Moore, I think that's some serious firepower, adding in a Khalil Shakir to this with a Dalton Kincaid, a very good tight end room, and an offensive line that's one of the better in the league. For me, the question and why I don't have this team a little bit higher is that I do have some questions with the defense, right? What does Bradley Chubb give to this team? Is the secondary outside of Christian Benford good enough? You know, Geno Stone, Cole Bishop, Maxwell Hairston, I want to see them take steps forward this year. Geno Stone has to get back to his Baltimore ways. And can they stuff the run better? Because they didn't really address it in the interior defensive line a ton. They did add guys like Bradley Chubb and TJ Parker, which I think will help them, and Caleb Alarms or two. But can they be a better run defense this year? Can they be better at that? We know this is going to be a top 5, top 10 offense in the league. Josh Allen, I mean, he's an MVP contender every single season. And I think defensively they're good enough. But the reason why I have them a little bit lower than where some people might have them at is that you have a first-year head coach in Joe Brady, a hire that to me felt a little uninspiring, to be honest with you. And then you have all these questions with your defense with a bunch of new faces, some guys that are going to be asked to take a step forward. And I just don't know if they're going to be good enough. I don't know. It's one of those things where you could put them higher and I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you. And I do think from here on out, I think every team on this list is a championship contender, but I do think the Bills are for sure in the mix. I think they're easily one of the favorites to win it all this year. And so, yeah, we'll have to wait and see ultimately how it plays out. All right, moving over to number 7, I have the San Francisco 49ers. Listen, the Niners have been, when healthy, one of the best teams in football. The problem with this Niners team is that they have consistently struggled with the injury bug. I feel like I'm repeating myself over and over again, but this roster is ridiculously talented. Having Brock Purdy, having Christian McCaffrey, adding Mike Evans. Deshaun Stribling looked great in his preseason debut. I think he'll be a starter for this team. George Kittle coming off the torn Achilles. I believe he's going to be ready for week 1, which is pretty miraculous, honestly. Trent Williams at tackle. Colton McKivitz is pretty good too. And then defensively, guys like Osa Odighizuwa, with the returning Nick Bosa, with Drake Greenlaw coming back, with Fred Warner. Their secondary is also pretty good. This team has the talent. Not to mention, I think they have one of the best coaching staffs in the league. The reason why I couldn't put them any higher is the fact that, number one, injuries have been an issue for this team for what feels like the past 6 years now. We've already heard about Ricky Pearsall missing probably most, if not all, of this upcoming year. You have Christian McCaffrey dealing with some sort of injury, but then it's also being reported that it might be a contract dispute, which is never great, especially when you're, 3 weeks away from the kickoff of week 1. So that's not really good. But still, if this team can just stay mostly healthy, if Nick Bosa, Fred Warner, your defense can stay intact, I'm sure you're going to get Christian McCaffrey out there, whether he's paid or not. Deshaun Stribling looks really good. I mean, this is going to be a really good football team. Unfortunately for them, they're in probably the toughest division in the NFL, minus the trash Arizona Cardinals. But you have the Seahawks and the Rams, who, spoiler alert, we'll talk about them in a little bit. But those two teams are some of the best teams in the league and amongst the betting favorites to win it all. So if you're San Francisco, you're like, well, shit, I got to play those guys 4 times, and then I got to probably face them in the playoffs yet again. So that's going to be tough. But I still think with, even in this division, like San Francisco, probably not my favorite to win the division, but they're easily going to be in the mix. They're going to win a lot of games. I think it's going to be absolute cinema watching that entire division just eat each other apart. This is a really good team that hopefully can just stay healthy finally. All right, let's move over to our 6th team, and it is going to be the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, this entire offseason, I think I have been a little bit harsh on the Eagles, but I think I've been fairly reasonable with my takes. And one thing I have been very consistent on with this Eagles team is that I think this might be one of, if not the best defenses in football this year. From top to bottom, this defense is just stacked with talent, right? I think Jalen Carter is a little bit of the X factor for this team. Can he get back to his form that he showed in the, I think it was 2024 season? Last year, I feel like he took a bit of a step back, but Jordan Davis is one of the best run defenders in the league. You pair that up with Carter. Moro Ijomo had a good year. Nolan Smith, hopefully he can continue to get better and better. Now you have Jonathan Grenard with J-Lex Hunt and Arnold Ebiketie and AJ Epinesa. So, one of my concerns around halfway through the offseason was with the pass rush, but with the addition of hopefully a healthy Jonathan Grenard, Arnold Ebiketie, AJ Epinesa, Hunt, and Nolan Smith, I think that's a pretty solid unit. And then you have Zach Bond with Jahad Campbell having a bigger role, who looked really good when he was given chances last year. Oh, and in the secondary, you added Tariq Woolen with Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, and Andrew Makuba. Like, that's going to be special. The real question for me is going to come with the offensive side of the field here. New offensive coordinator. I believe this is his first time ever being an offensive coordinator, so that'll be interesting. A lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts, who's been questioned a lot this offseason. Saquon, can he be healthy and come back from a pretty disappointing year last year? I'm really not loving this wide receiver core, especially because we haven't really heard a ton of good things about Mekhi Lemon yet. Obviously, tight end room looks good. Offensive line, if healthy, hopefully should be good. But I don't know, they weren't great last year. I think this will be a top 5 defense with an offense that can probably be around top 15 level. And with that being said, like I think they're going to win a lot of games just off of that. If this offense is good next year, this is going to be a championship threat. Like they're real contenders. 'Cause I think that defense with Vic Fangio and all that guy and all those stars that I just talked about, they're going to be special next year. It's going to come down to the offense. Can they limit turnovers? Can they run the football? Can they stay healthy on the offensive line? And what does this passing attack look like? Like that's for me the biggest question I have, arguably of the entire NFL, honestly. Because if the Eagles can pass the football, like they're a threat to win it all next year. But if it's concerning, like I think it is, if the passing attack isn't that great, then all of a sudden it's like, are they a top 10 team? Like, I don't know. I just worry about, like, I think Devontae Smith's going to be good. I believe in Mekhi Lemon. I think he's going to be a good player. I worry about the system they're running in, the quarterback and Jalen Hurts. Does he fit the offense that they're clearly trying to build him into? It's going to be very fascinating, but I guess we'll have to wait and see. The talent is clearly here. Just got to put it together offensively. But entering into our top 5, at number 5, I have the Houston Texans. You could honestly say a lot of very similar things about the Philadelphia Eagles and the Houston Texans. I will admit, I do think the Eagles offense has a better chance of being better than the Texans offense, but I do think the Texans defense is not one of, I think they are the best defense in the NFL, and they only got better this offseason. Let's start off with the defense here. I mean, you have 2 premier pass rushers with Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson. You just signed Jadeveon Clowney, so that'll be fun. Your linebackers with Henry To'oTo'o and Azeez Al-Shaair are really good. You probably have one of, if not the best secondaries with Stingley, Lassiter, Petrie. You add Reed Blankenship with Kalen Bullock. For me, the big question was going to come down to this interior defensive line, and what you do, you went out there and got Logan Hall and Caden McDonald to pair up with Tommy and Sheldon. The offense just has to do their job, kind of like what we talked about with the Eagles, where it's like, rely on your defense offensively, just run the football well and don't turn the ball over. And they made some strides on the offensive side of things. Like I really do think this is a better offense from what it was last year. I think the combination of Montgomery and Woody Marks should be pretty good. I said this last year, but I really do like this receiving core. Nico Collins with Higgins, Noel, Hutchinson, hopefully a healthy Tank Dell. I still like your tight end room. I think offensive line wise, this was the big question of the offseason. Like how do they fix this unit? You know, Ursa year 2, you add Wyatt Teller, you draft Kalen Rutledge, Ed Ingram yet again back in the fold, and Braden Smith. Like that should be a pretty good offensive line. And I think depth wise, you know, having a Jake Andrews, having a Trent Brown, Blake Fisher in another year, this should be a pretty solid unit. I just think this team took a big step forward offensively by fixing up the offensive line and adding David Montgomery. We'll see ultimately what the offense looks like here. This is an offense that was, you know, kind of middle of the pack and kind of bad at times. But again, if they can run the football efficiently, they can take care of the football, I think you have the best defense in the league. So I think because of that, because you can rely on your defense to win you a lot of games, offensively, you just have to do your job, right? And the other thing, too, that I think also plays into this, I don't think their division is the toughest one out there. And in general, the AFC is fairly open. Like, you know, we're going to talk about some other AFC teams here in a second, but it's fairly open. And I think for Houston, you can, you know, create these theoretical paths of how you can beat these other teams. Whereas in the NFC side of things, like with Philadelphia, it's going to be tough for Philadelphia to beat the upper echelon NFC teams because they're that good. But Houston, they don't have to usually face those teams, especially not in the playoff run. So we'll wait and see. But I like the way this team is trending. I love the defense, and hopefully the offense can just figure it out. You feel me? But let's move over to number 4. And at number 4, I have the Denver Broncos. Broncos fans, if you're watching this, I just want you guys to watch my last video. Just a little, you know, spoiler alert here. Broncos are going to be winning some fun things next year. I did my full playoff predictions video, so I want you guys to check that out. Even if you're not a Broncos fan, just check out that video. You can see my predictions for this upcoming season, but Broncos fans especially, you might want to go check it out. Anyways, Denver Broncos, I mean, look, kind of rinse and repeat in a lot of ways the past 2 teams. We were talking about one of, if not the best defense in the NFL. I don't think it's the best. I do think Houston is better, but I mean, Malcolm Roach, DJ Jones, Coop, Zach Allen, Singleton, Stranad, Bonito, Moss, Hufanga, Jones, Surtain, McMillan. Hopefully Jahdae Barron can get involved this year. Yeah, this defense is really good. It's just going to come down to what level this offense can get to. This offense has been good. You know, Bo Nix has been a playoff riser. You have J.K. Dobbins with R.J. Harvey. I think Jonah Coleman is a good player too. And then you add in Jalen Waddle with Cortland Sutton. Like, I think that is a really good combination of receivers. And I think they have the best offensive line in football. When it comes down to it, I think this is a very talented team. Now, they're in a very tough division. The Chiefs aren't no slouches. They're not in my top 10, but like, they could be another top 10s. We talked about the Chargers a bit earlier. I think the Raiders aren't going to be a pushover this year. So you're in a tough division, so that could hold you back a little bit in my power rankings. But I think they were just a really well put together team. I think the teams in front of the Broncos have equal amounts of star power, great coaches, and all that stuff. It just comes down to some like really small nitpicks here and there with the Broncos. This is a very talented football team that, as I mentioned earlier, probably has a top 5, top 3 defense in the league, and an offense that I think can get to another level this year with the addition of Jalen Waddle and having Sean Payton calling plays with Bo Nix. The teams in front of the Broncos, to me, just have more answers known right now, right? They have better quarterbacks, or they have better weapons offensively and equally as good defenses. So yeah, it just comes down to some really small nitpicks, but Denver is going to be an absolute threat next year. And again, please go check out that predictions video, because you're going to like it, Broncos fans. All right, let's move over to number 3. We have the New England Patriots. Patriots were a tough one because, you know, a lot of people are going to point to, oh, the schedule. They weren't that good last year. It's like, yeah, the schedule was light, and when things got a little bit more hard in the postseason, you saw Drake May make more mistakes, but I think Drake May is going to learn from that. He'll be better because of it. And I mean, when you have an offseason like the Patriots just had, where you add a star in AJ Brown, Romeo Dobbs, Elijah Vera Tucker, Gabe Yakis, and some guys in the draft, like this is going to be a really good team. Now, you can flip the Patriots and the Broncos. Like, I really do think those are the 2 top teams in the AFC this year. They're like 1A, 1B, so you can flip them, and I wouldn't really mind. But the Patriots, who had one of the best defenses last year, especially in the postseason, I think offensively speaking, they can maybe hit a level that the Broncos just quite can't hit. I mean, we saw this team last year. They were 2nd in points per game and 4th in opponents' points per game. Now, when they got to the postseason, it wasn't the same results, but I think with the addition of Brown, with Romeo Dobbs, year 2 of Travion Henderson, Drake May continuing to develop into this offense. Hopefully the offensive line takes a step forward this year. And when you have a defense that's this good and a guy in Mike Vrabel who consistently can elevate talent, this is going to be one of the best teams yet again this year. I know a lot of people want to discount the Patriots and what they did last year because their schedule was light and whatnot. And I think there is some truth to it. Like, their schedule was not the hardest schedule last year, but I think we have to understand that they went up against 4 elite defenses, and they showed their defense belongs equally as much as those other teams. Now, the Super Bowl didn't go their way, but this is an elite defense with an elite coaching staff and an offense that got significantly upgraded, both on the offensive line and in the receiving room. So I trust the fact that Mike Vrabel has led that Patriots team in just 1 year to a championship. And after another offseason, another year of continuity, like, they're not going to take a massive step back. They're going to be very good this year. Their schedule does get a little bit harder. Now, I shouldn't say a little bit harder, a lot more hard. But I think the Patriots, like, they're ready for it. Like, this was, I think they caught people off guard last year and they were able to sneak away a little bit at times. But this year, everyone's going to be prepared for them. And I'm like, sure, you might be ready for them, but I think the Patriots are ready for you too. I think this is going to be a great team. All right, but now in the top 2, at number 2, I have the Super Bowl champions, the Seattle Seahawks. Seattle, man, I mean, what a year you guys had last year. I do believe that Seattle took a bit of a step back this past or in this offseason. You know, losing guys like Kenneth Walker and Kobe Bryant and Rick Woolen and Boy Mafe. Those were 4 starters on a championship winning team. Like, those are losses. Now, I think they did a good job of promoting talent that was already on the team. Guys like Josh Jobe and Zach Charbonnet will get bigger roles, Derek Hall as well. And then I think in the draft and with some of their free agency spending, they did a good enough job of finding some solutions. Right, Jadarian Price, Bud Clark, Julian Neal, and more recently, Terrion Arnold. I think it's all going to be very interesting. They did a good job of paying their guys and making sure they can stay ahead of things. Losing Clint Kubiak will be interesting. And I think that they're going to be fine with Fleury at OC, but, you know, it is notable to say the least. But again, as I've said, this roster, you know, even though they lost pieces and didn't do a ton in free agency, they're going to be really good next year. Like, really good. Sam Darnold, you know, he was unbelievable last year. I think he's just going to get better this upcoming season. Hopefully, if the OC is good. You have Charbonnet with Price. I'm very intrigued to see what Price looks like this year. I've heard really good things in camp and through the preseason, but I want to see it in the actual live games. Jackson Smith and Jigba just got paid. You got Rashid Shaheed and Cooper Kupp. I'm very excited to see what Torrey Horton can do this year. Love your tight end room with Barner and Elijah Arroyo. I think those complement each other great. Then you have a good offensive line. Hopefully, they can continue to stay healthy because they did last year. And then defensively, like, yeah, you lose out Rick Woolen. You're going to promote Josh Jobe. You have Nicky Monwore with Witherspoon. Love your linebackers. You have Nwosu, Hall. You had Fowler with DeMarcus Lawrence. Your interior is still very good. Look, last year this was the 3rd ranked offense and the number 1 ranked defense. And I think this upcoming season, they're going to be right back in the conversation. This is a top 5 offense with a top 5 defense. Now, things can change if, the OC doesn't work out, and if Josh Jobe doesn't take a step forward, or, if some things get exploited, like that can change my rankings. But as we sit here today, we saw this team dominate their way through the postseason. They blew out the Niners. They didn't handle the Rams. It was a close game, but they beat the Rams fair and square, and they blew out the Patriots in the Super Bowl. And sure, they lost some things, but you have Mike McDonald in the fold with all these superstars that we just talked about, and then even the players they brought in to replace the guys that left. Like, I just have this weird feeling they're going to do a good job. Like, I think Jadarian Price could be good. I think if Bud Clark has to play, I think he'll be fine. I'm very excited to see Terran Arnold with this team, assuming the legal stuff works out. This is a really good football team, but ultimately, they're not number 1, because I'm sure most of you guys can predict who is number 1. That number 1 team is very, very good, but I think Seattle should still be given the respect they deserve for winning the championship, and not only just having talented teams, but I think their mindset this year is also really sharp. Like, this is a team that, from what I've seen and heard, they are like dead focused on repeating and defending this thing. So I think that also is really interesting, but they're going to have to go through a brick wall, and that brick wall is my number 1 team in the Los Angeles Rams. I think everyone expected the Rams to be number 1, and unfortunately, like I feel like this is the common consensus, and I wish that I could be like, oh, they're not going to be the best team in football next year. But at some point, like, everyone's saying it, and rightfully so, this Rams team is freaking awesome, dude. They're awesome. They have everything you could imagine. And while I think that, like, they're probably going to be championship favorites, they should be championship favorites, I think there are some teams that could present a challenge. Again, Broncos, Seahawks, Patriots, other teams, they can present challenges to them. But the Rams have the best mixture of veteran experience, great coaching staff, premier superstars, mostly in most positions, depth behind those superstars. And they also have that other thing, that chip on the shoulder. This is a team that didn't win it all last year, right? Seattle, again, I think they still have that chip on their shoulder of wanting to defend it. But like, there could be at some point in the season when things get a little bit hard, it's like, hey, I still got my ring. I still won that thing. For the Rams, it's like, we didn't win since 2021. It's now 2026. We're hungry. And you got dudes who, in Myles Garrett and Devontae Adams, who want to win that championship with all the experience they have. Look, to me, I don't think there's a more talented football team in the league than this Rams team. Stafford is the league MVP last year. Kyron Williams a star. Puka Nacua, Adams, both stars in their own right. I think they're genuinely probably 4 deep at tight end. Offensive line-wise, hopefully they can stay healthy. I worry a little bit about the depth behind these guys, but you have Kevin Dotson, you have Steve Avila, you have Alaric Jackson, you have Warren McClendon, who was good last year. And then on the defensive line side of things, you have Kobe Turner, Poona Ford, Braden Fisk, Byron Young, Myles Garrett. I mean, that's the best defensive line in the league, in my opinion. And Nate Lamb and Omar Spades, I think they're good enough. And then the secondary, one of your major issues last year, a unit that was fine at times, but not great. You had a Jalen Watson and Trent McDuffie with Quentin Lake, Cam Curl, and Cam Kitchens. Boy, I tell you, there's not a more talented team in the league. If they can stay healthy, which that is the massive caveat, they have to stay healthy. That is the biggest thing they have to do. But if they can stay healthy, I mean, genuinely, the sky is truly the limit for this team. If they could stay healthy the entire season, let's assume that nobody gets injured. Let's just make that assumption. This team could win every game next year. Like, that's how good they are. Now, they won't do it. They'll deal with an injury. They might get upset here or there. Seattle will present an issue for them. But if this team stays healthy and if they live up to their potential, you're looking at a team that should win a championship next year. I think, honestly, anything but a ring next year would be extremely disappointing for this team. I'm not saying you do a fire sale after that or fire McVay and get off Myles Garrett's contract. Like, I'm not saying that. But if you don't win it all next year, like, that would be an extreme disappointment. So, yeah, they're my number 1 team. They are ridiculously talented, and I think we all should expect the Rams to at least make a deep playoff run. And, honestly, it'll be fun to see who can knock them out. Like, it'll be very fun. But, guys, in the comment section below, I want to know your top 10 teams in the NFL. Mine go Chargers, Lions, Bills, Niners, Eagles, Texans, Broncos, Patriots, Seahawks, and number 1, LA Rams. Let me know in the comment section below your top 10. Hit the like and subscribe button. Love you guys. Peace.